Hi everybody, my name is RV Alverna. Welcome to the YouTube series, The Backpack. The Backpack is a platform which was created to give people from our communities an opportunity to tell their stories. We seek to capture organic inspiration from real people, real life, and make real impact in real time. Our first episode is focused on mental health and how it's affected us as Black men. Today comes with a lot of excitement and a lot of anxiety and obviously a lot of preparation, right? And I wanted to thank you, Rochelle, Lewis, and Junior for your willingness to want to do this and allow this project to come into fruition, right? Because it was when I first initially came up with the authentic, right? It was really because I got to a point in my life where I got tired of just hiding how I really felt about things. I got tired of hiding how I had been feeling for 34 years of living, right? And I wanted to come up with a way to make it relatable to any viewer who would be watching this one day. Anybody who decided that they were gonna tune into the authentic, to rather it be for some inspiration or some encouragement or some empowerment or something that can help them get through what they're going through. So the backpack is red, and the reason why I picked the backpack and made sure that it was the color red is because we as individuals walk around with this invisible backpack, which is filled with an enormous amount of stuff, an enormous amount of experiences, an enormous amount of trials and tribulations in which we've endured throughout our lives. And I know my backpack is filled, right? So I just knew that it was time to start unpacking it. So I decided that the best way to do that is to have a backpack right there on the table, but also invite you guys along for the conversation. So the topic that I would like to discuss today will be mental health, as how it has affected us as African American males. What I'm about to pull out this backpack is going to start the conversation of how I got to the point in which I'm at now, why I deal with the situation in which I deal with it, and how I deal with the situations, and who I deal with, and how I deal with those people in those situations. So for me, it's on this index card I wrote 13 years. And the reason why I put 13 years on this index card is because it was 13 years of residing at 33 Jacoby Street in Maplewood, New Jersey, right? And in that address, I lived with my mom, I lived with my dad, and my 4 siblings. And occasionally an aunt, right? Or an uncle. But the conversations that took place in that household for 13 years on a regular basis weren't always positive conversations. On the percentage wise, the conversations were probably negative 75% of the time, right? The interactions were probably negative. And I mean, like, it could be the most subtle thing, but it was negative. Mm-hmm. And that's how I've remembered how I've gotten to this point right now, right? So for 13 years of living in that address and living with the individuals in which I live, which is my family and people that I love dearly, right? I love my mom and dad. I love my sisters and brothers, my aunts and uncles who stayed with us. But there were things that took place that I know has affected me today. And one of those things was how my parents disciplined my sisters and I, and my brothers and I, and the things that they said to us, which they probably thought was empowering or some type of some way to encourage us to do better, but it was more so more defeating than anything. Right?
The intentions were good.
Yeah. So I come from a Haitian background, right? It's a tough love. I think. Oh well, the only person that say that is a Haitian is Louis, right? But everybody else is Haitian. So you guys, even more so relate to it than Louis do. But there are certain things that are said in terms of the language, right? Oh yeah. So there's certain things that was said in terms of language that just defeated me throughout my teenage years, and it didn't do any good. Mm-hmm. Right? So my mother, I love her to death, but she just would say certain things. Like she would refer to my sisters and I or my sibling, whichever one, if we did something that wasn't too appealing to her or she didn't care for, she would refer to us as a term of an animal.
Yeah.
Or some sort. Right? So I just don't want to say it.
No, I don't get it. Like, what does that mean?
Wait, when did the 13 years end?
The 13 years ended in 2004.
But like, what age were you? Because
I was in my first year of college.
Okay.
Yeah, it was my first.
So it's like, why did you come in late, dog? Like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me.
Okay, so it's like this. If I got in trouble, my mother would use the word improv. Right, right, but only you as a Haitian you would know what that is. Or she'll call you a song, right? Yeah. But it was just words that just weren't good, right?
Yeah. And Creole is a rough language.
Yeah. The language of Creole is just it's a rough language in itself. But how someone else may have grown up where they heard the word "I love you" on a frequent basis, I didn't.
Yeah.
The first time I heard the word "I love you" from my father was the day of my graduation in 2010. Right? That's the first time I heard. I'll never forget that day. May 11, 2010, the first time I heard my father say "I love you," because he was proud of what I had accomplished.
Did you feel like that was the first time he was proud of you? Like expressing him proud of you?
Yeah, that's the first time.
But can we go back though for those who aren't Haitian, right? What is that? Like the improv or whatever? What do you say? Like just
it's not improv.
What is it? What did you say?
Like improv.
Like improv. What is it?
I don't even know what it is. That's the thing. Like, but I knew it was something that just was. It wasn't a term that just wasn't a good one. All right, it wasn't a good term, right? But I guess we would have to bring an old school Haitian.
Well, let's get an annotation.
Right. So, I'm in this space because I accomplished certain things, right? So it's allowed me to be at this table, but at the same time, am I even respected? Right? Am I even respected? So then I'm questioning my self-worth. I'm questioning my intelligence. Just questioning just even being there in itself. And I contributed to those times in which when I got in trouble, where I could have, instead of being identified as whatever those terms were that my parents used, I felt like it could have went a different way. They could have encouraged me a completely different way.
Are we sure that Lewis can't relate to any of this?
Oh, no. I didn't mean that Lewis can't relate to it. I think Lewis can relate. He just couldn't relate to the language in itself, right? So if I take it to you, Lewis, being that you're the only non-Haitian at the table, but
didn't grow up in Essex County.
You didn't grow up in Essex County. You grew up in Hudson County, right?
The lucky one.
Yeah, the lucky one, right? So what would you think? Like, how did you grow up?
All right, so first of all, just giving kudos to you for like putting this together, this panel together. The idea that a black man who is going to do what we've gone through, and I can make it personal, like the fact that you went through what you went through, and that you're able to stand tall and do something like this. I think that's amazing. So I want to big you up right now as well. In terms of growing up, I joke around, but I call myself Just Black JB. And just Black is being facetious, but in actuality, right? Like now I'm learning to appreciate the culture and things like that. But I grew up in the projects in Booker T, in Jersey City, where it was typical, right? We were borrowing the necessities like milk, bread, butter, all that good stuff. Danger was imminent, right? Like drugs were accessible. Like it was a really rough upbringing. And my family, how can I put this? Like there was a lot of love in the house, like in terms of like, yo, you're amazing, you're this, you're that. But then we had gone through so much as a unit that it was difficult to be validated for where I wanted to go. I don't know how really to describe it, except like, my mom had endured a lot of like domestic violence, and my aunts or whatever, the same idea. Like my grandfather, my maternal grandfather knocked the teeth out of my great grandmother's mouth because she tried to get in between him and my grandmother, who was his wife. She tried to get in between them fighting or whatever, and basically he knocked your teeth out, right? And so like I was born when this happened and things like that. So I just became the product of like, you know, a lot of violence and dysfunction. But like they were unable to validate me because they weren't able to validate themselves. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in the situation that they were in, right? And so I knew that I was loved. I felt included. I just had a very difficult time navigating the world outside of the projects, right? Like, I was a teacher pet all the time, the teacher's pet, and I would like sit next to the desk and do a lot of crazy things, like file papers and, you know, pass out papers, organize a desk. But that was my way of wanting to feel validated, feel like I was good enough, right? And so I struggled with that most of my life, and so I'm gonna pull out.
I was about to say, is it related to that?
I struggled with that most of my life, and so. I'm going to pull out a Sharpie. So in light of me being a new author, and the fact that, you know, I was able to write a lot of the things down. I've been in therapy for the past 12 years. And the marker represents, you know, just the struggle that I had gone through, but being able to use this as a way to empower myself, right? To really write down the thoughts. Not necessarily, I don't know, it didn't bail me out, but it definitely gave me an escape to my reality. And it's permanent, right? And so that I had the opportunity to rewrite my life in a different way, you know, through counseling, through healthy living, you know, through amazing friendships and things like that. I've been able to rewrite my history and really like change the trajectory of my son's life. So this is why this was so significant for me.
Was that process more stressful or therapeutic when you're writing down something? Because I associate writing with stress. Writer's block could be there. I don't know how your process was for your book.
So ultimately, man, it was a combo of both, right? So it wasn't stressful the fact that I had to write it out. It was stressful the fact that like I had to figure stuff out, right? I had to say like, yo, this don't make sense. What does make sense for me? What's my formula? How do I create like, you know, a better lifestyle? So like, you know, just jotting things down, you know, things like that. That became the stressful piece. But it was also tedious, right? It was uncomfortable. It was all that, but it was also therapeutic and reviving all at the same time.
Was that something you discovered through therapy? Or was that something that was there before?
So when my therapist suggested that I write things down, it became second nature because I had been doing that all along. And I didn't realize that that's what I was using it for. Right. So when the therapist said it, I was able to connect the two because it just made sense.
I just did some math. So you were in therapy when I met you?
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good topic because I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So honestly,
so he's been in therapy for 10 years. I've been in therapy since January, right? And
yeah.
My therapist, the first thing she said to me when I met her, I need you to start writing some stuff down, right?
Yeah.
Like because she felt that it was necessary that if I write stuff down, then I can always go back to it, right? Mm-hmm. And then me writing it down allows me to be able to really look at it from what it is on paper. So we have these thoughts in our minds at all times of how we've gone through things or how we're going to handle certain things, but we never write them down.
Yeah.
So then, how are you going to really execute the resolution, right? So that's what she said to me when she wanted me to start writing stuff down.
Did you hide that, or like not hide it, but like did you consciously not tell anybody that? Because I feel like now it's more palatable now, to tell someone that you.
Now, right? So now,
like I'm saying, I didn't know that the whole time.
Yeah, I didn't know that. So all right.
You just said that.
So I'm looking more than
I've known Louis for 6 years. I've known Louis for 6 years. You know him longer than that time. Yeah. And I didn't know any of this.
Yeah,
really?
Yeah.
No. So honestly, like, I knew that I found a dope chick, right? I knew that she was marriage material, but I also knew that I was jammed up, man. Like psychologically, like broken or whatever, you know what I mean? And so I'm like, yo, I gotta get this together before I even step forward with that. So before I got on my knee, I realized that like I needed to go to counseling. So I was in counseling 6 months before I proposed.
So here you go, right? So he recognizes that he needs to he's broken, he needs to fix. I got married and I knew I was broken and I still got married, right? Because I was like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out as I go, right? Because growing up, that was never talked about.
Yeah.
And back in November 2018, I tried to tell my mother, okay, there are times when I'm just not happy. Right? There are times I really just don't even want to be around, right? And the first thing she says, well, all I've ever taught you is church and prayer, right? Because for her, stuff like this is can be quickly fixed by praying and going to church.
Yeah.
But that's not. It hasn't been helping.
Did you expect marriage to like kind of fix certain things or like be the step that you're supposed to take, and then
I felt that marriage was going to not fix it but cover it up.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because when you have all these responsibilities, you're responsible for the wife, you're responsible for the kids.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna associate you.
Or that those problems aren't going to be the same.
No
That,
problem.
like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're going to bury that in your responsibility and how you navigate the world. So you're not going to necessarily have those issues.
So yeah, so that makes sense.
You're like busy. As long as I've known you, you've been busy.
I stayed busy, and I've always put myself in a busy environment because I know when I'm not busy, what happens.
Yeah. So
right?
your defense mechanism became your responsibilities, your duties.
Yeah. So then, when it ultimately came on unraveling, it was when I now know that I was too busy. I was too busy.
And just to ask you a question in terms of being open about it, I've always been open about going to therapy. It's just the reaction that I got from certain people, I realized that wasn't something that I could talk to everybody about, right? So had you come to me and be like, yo, I'm dealing with this, that, and the third, I don't know my way out, I would have offered that to you and then gave you the piece of, the fact that I've gone to therapy or whatever. But because it didn't come up, I'm less inclined. You know what I mean? To bring it up. Like, I don't talk to random people about it, right?
Yeah.
But all of my young men from my organization, they know that I'm in counseling and that's the expectation. And there are a lot of therapeutic things that we do. Not that I'm a certified whatever, but some of the things that my counselor...
You take them back.
And basically implement some of the things that he's done with me.